Hello and welcome to the programme. Now, António Guterres has been the UN Secretary-General since 2017, but the politician and diplomat who previously served as Prime Minister of Portugal is due to hand over the reins later on this year when his term ends. Well, the formal selection process begins at the end of July, and according to the polls, at least 94 states intend to nominate a woman for the job. And if a woman does take the top job, it will be the first time in the UN's 80-year history that job does go to a woman. So who is going to succeed Guterres? Well, one name doing the rounds is Ivonne Baki, who is an Ecuadorian diplomat and a politician of Lebanese descent, who is seen as a strong contender to succeed Guterres. I'm delighted to say she's here with me in the studio. Very warm welcome, Ambassador Baki.
Thank you, my dear Tom. It's a pleasure to be here.
Now,
the first interview with you.
This is your first televised interview, isn't it?
First since I was nominated.
Since you were nominated. This is a great honour for us.
Thank you.
According to a tradition of geographic rotation, many are saying it's Latin America's turn for the UN Secretary-General to come from that continent. Many also saying it's a woman's turn, long overdue. Now, those are two criteria that make you a perfect candidate, not to mention the fact that you speak 5 languages. Do correct me if I'm wrong. Why would you want the role, and what would you bring to it?
That's a great question. Why do I want? It's my dream. Since I was during the war in Lebanon, you know, I was all the 18 years of war in Lebanon, the civil war, I was there. My children were born under the bombs. They didn't see the Lebanon, the Beirut that I knew. And what made me work for peace at that time was my daughter. She was maybe 3 or 4 years old, during the heading from everywhere. We lived in Raushi, in a high ceiling, very high. And we had to go to the basement, and there was, first of all, my husband is a believer, so he didn't want to go to the bombing. When the bombing was crazy, one moment it was so much, and he said, okay, let's go down. But we were going, and the bombing, so we couldn't. So we had to stay in line with my 3 children, my husband. I had 2 girls from Ecuador that was working there, and in one line, and I hold my daughter, and she looked at me, and she said, Mommy, are we going to die? And I said, no, Tatiana, we're not going to die. And from that time, I decided we have to make for peace. I put myself on the place of all these mothers that I see now it's going on all the time, that are losing their children for wars that we don't know why. So I made a promise that I will work for peace. And since then, I haven't stopped. I went to Harvard just to study with Professor Roger Fisher, the guru of negotiations, to make peace in the Middle East. When I went to Harvard, I was as a Lebanese Ecuadorian. Just for that purpose, I wanted peace in the Middle East. My art was always for peace, using women as a symbol of unconditional love for peace. And my collection of art that I was doing, it was called Women of the Orient and the Challenge. And this has been all my life. I created at Harvard a foundation, the arts for peace, to make politics right. I mean, it was the Art for Peace Foundation. And with Roger Fisher, we were working for peace in the Middle East. He used to bring the Israelis and Palestinians live there at Harvard. Him and Herbert Kellman, they were 2, my professors. He was my mentor. And I became member of the conflict management group. I started in 1989 with them. And then in 1995, I was still painting, but studying, taking my master's in the Kennedy School of Government, majoring negotiations with peace. And in 1995, the president of Ecuador called me because the war between Ecuador and Peru started. And I was the honorary consul general of Ecuador in Boston at that time also. And he called me, he said, we need Roger Fisher, we need Professor Fisher to come to Ecuador to help us in this war that has been going on for more than 100 years. And it happened by coincidence, Tom, that they were having dinner at my place, the whole group of conflict management group with Roger Fisher there. And I said, Mr. President, here's the phone. Speak to him directly. And after 3 days, we were in Ecuador. And my life changed. I became negotiator for peace. As you know, we did peace in 1998. It took 3 years. but it was an amazing, the last border dispute of the hemisphere. The guarantor countries were the United States, Clinton was president, Brazil, Argentina, and Chile. Carlos Menem was in Brazil, Eduardo Frei in Chile, Fernando Henrique Cardoso in Brazil. In 1998, we signed the most amazing peace, last border disputes of the hemisphere. And I became ambassador in Washington at that time, 1998, and my life's changed. But I'm still not forgetting the purpose of why I am. It's peace in the Middle East for me. That's still the missing equation that we still have to make. Okay. If there's no peace in the Middle East, there's no peace in the world.
I mean, Ambassador, in this short introduction since our conversation began, we've crisscrossed the world, and you've painted a picture already of someone who's been building bridges her whole life.
Right.
You know, there's been Lebanon, there's been the Paris stage. You didn't mention, in fact, that you'd studied painting at the Sorbonne in Paris.
That's right.
And into this tapestry that I'm building in my mind about your life, there are languages, there are cultures, there are many things at play. I'd like to ask you, I mean, there is strong momentum, isn't there, towards choosing a first woman UN Secretary General. Again, that's never happened in the 80-year history of the UN. Are you surprised? Why do you think there's ever been a woman?
Well, that's a good question. We are in the world 51% women, more than men, and we don't have a woman in that position. Another thing is that we need, for example, when I look at the picture of the negotiators, whether it's in Israel, Gaza, or Palestine, in Russia, Ukraine, see at the table, is there a woman? Only men. So we need to see why a woman is necessary, why we need a woman. The mother. We call it the Mother Earth, right? Mother Earth, protecting Mother Earth. Okay, we protect the oceans, we protect the land. For whom? For the humans, right? Not for the earth. The earth and the land and the oceans will continue. It's not going to disappear. It's the human race that's disappearing. You know how many women between Russia and Ukraine, millions have died. How many women, they don't see their sons? How many children are being killed for what? Is it acceptable that we continue this way? You know why the UN was created after World War II in 1948? It was created by all the countries. The United States, the United Nations, was created to prevent a third world war. We were almost at the blink of having a third world war. Thanks to President Trump. He came and he said, we want peace. I mean, all the message, it's for peace. I mean, he says peace to strength because we have to have it. But I believe that he believes that we have to stop the killing. We have to stop the massacres of children, of women, of people that have nothing to do in it. And at the same time, of the soldiers that are dying and the mothers that stay without their children. Do you think they want that? Nobody wants that. Nobody wants that. So it's enough is enough. It's a moment of change. We need to have a new world order. We need to have a new UN. We need to have another perspective of what the UN was created for. And, you know, it was Charles Malik, who was a Lebanese, who was part of the founding members of the United Nations, and he was the one that wrote that. He said, and I was reading the first part of it, he said we need more women to be part of the United Nations, to be able to prevent wars. So, you know, this is what we need, prevention. When you say we have to find a solution, we are reacting. When you react, you lose. It's action, not reaction. We need to have strength by preventing, by sitting people, talking with the enemy. You cannot find a solution if you don't talk with the enemy. I mean, if you consider that the enemy, because when you sit at a table, you find out that everyone has a different priority. The priority of Israel is security. The priority of Palestinian is land. So we can find a common ground, but they don't sit together. It's all fighting and never thinking about the bigger picture of those people that die, and they don't know why.
Right.
My children didn't know why. My grandchildren, they don't understand. It's still going on. All the children, they ask, the new generation, they're asking, why is this continuing? Why don't you find a way? Where's the leadership?
Okay. And I mean, you know, obviously the UN is going through a period where it is under scrutiny, perhaps like never before.
Yeah.
President Trump, who you've mentioned a few times, has not been, he hasn't held back, shall we say, when it comes to calling out the UN on certain issues. So clearly there is a sense that the UN requires something of an overhaul, a big spring clean, you might say. Do you think you're sufficiently, do you think you are well positioned to carry out that overhaul, to breathe new life into an institution that 80 years old, that perhaps needs a major overhaul?
Nobody can do anything alone. I always work in a team, and leadership is not about a person, it's about a group of people that have the same vision with the same purpose of making a difference, of preventing wars, of preventing the things that will happen. So I have a great group, and that's what President Trump wants. That's why he created the group that he has around him also. I mean, I'm not saying that everything is perfection, but he is right about the UN. I mean, the UN was supposed to prevent the war between Russia and Ukraine. Why didn't they? Why did it have to happen? Because they arrived too late. You have to bring them to the UN. The UN had to be the place like this table, a round table. They have the round table. Put everyone there, not delegates. Put the real presidents, the people that make a decision, not we'll take it to the decision maker. And it goes forever and it turns around. So, yes, I personally, not alone, we can make a difference if we get like-minded people that believe in what we want to make for the world a better place.
And one of the bridges that you've built during your career, 2 terms in the United States, is of course a bridge you've built with President Trump, and you've got to know him well. And that relationship's going to be really valuable and something you can really bring to the table, isn't it? Yeah. At the UN, showing them that you can reconcile his view of the UN with perhaps the views of other UN member states.
Absolutely. This is exactly what the purpose of us women that we have, you know. when the mother wakes up at the home and she's not in a good mood, the whole home is not in a good mood. The thermometer of, like you find at home or in the city, or a woman always feels for her children and tries to negotiate with her children and her husband to find a solution, to find preventing problems. It's not so difficult. It's just sitting and understanding the other. You have to understand why the other person is doing what they are doing. I will tell you a small story about something that happened with me when I married very young. I was maybe 17 or 18 years old when the first issue happened that I had to negotiate with a group of people that were coming. My husband was very much involved in politics. They were coming, I don't know, to kidnap him. I was in Lebanon and Beirut, of course, my home. And they came and they were with Kalashnikovs and all this and all. And my husband was not at home. And the girls, as I told you, the Ecuadorians that were working at my place, they said, Madam, there is a group of like 15, 16. And I said, don't open the door, I'm coming. I opened the door. And there were all of them. What do you want? Well, we want to take your husband. We have orders. Orders from whom? Orders. Well, he's not here. My husband's not here. But you have a son. You have a just born, 1, 2 years, I don't know. I said, well, you want to take my son? Over my body. You have to kill me first. And then I look around. They were 18, 19 years old, this old. There was nothing more than that. Those, like my age, those that were there. And I look at one that seems to be like the leader. I told him, can you please just come, let's talk. And leave your arm outside and leave the rest. And I want to speak to you. To make the story short, we spoke for 1 hour or more. And he told me that he lost his parents in the war. It was, I don't know in what part of the mountains or the southern, but he lost them, and he had 5 brothers and sisters that he had to feed. And so he stopped school and he started work. He couldn't find a job. So they offered him a job to do what he was doing. So they were paying him. And to make his brother and sister go to school. So I told him, me and my husband have a foundation for education in Lebanon. Regardless of religion, it has nothing. And I will take your brothers and sister, and you too, if you want, to come to the foundation. Come and see me tomorrow, and I will give you a job, and I will give you your education for your brothers and sisters. And this is what I was negotiating. I understood. You know what kind of society we are creating with this? a society of those that have nothing to lose. So they become human bombs, they become terrorists, so you have to put yourself in the place of the other if you understand. So my life has been always about listening. I want to listen at the UN, what everybody wants, why this war is happening, what is the reason. You have to listen, not decide on a bureaucracy, bureau, en français, vous parlez français, bureau. They sit in a bureau, they think that they know what's going on in the world. You have to go and see what's happening, why these people are desperate, why these refugees are desperate, why these people they will do anything. If I'm a mother and I am seeing my children, they don't have anything, I will go maybe and steal, I don't know. But you have to listen what the problems are for the people. We are here to serve the people, not to serve ourselves.
As you've been talking, I was reminded of an expression by the former British Prime Minister, Margaret Thatcher.
Oh, I love Margaret Thatcher.
I thought you might, and I wanted to ask
I love
you.
her because I see something that I feel very much. And, President Reagan, I met him also, and I know that they were very good in relations together. And I was an artist at that time, but I used to follow them. And I met President Reagan personally when I was in Washington. The first time I was going to make an art exhibit there. So, yeah, I was always Margaret Thatcher, and look what they did. I mean, she thinks...
Is she someone you compared yourself to? Because with the expression I had in my mind...
I don't compare myself because I think everyone has something different and different moments in time. Her time was in a different moment. Our time now is in a different moment. We have to take into consideration now we are living in a moment where there is a lot of technology that can change a lot of things. And I think that our enemy now is going to be artificial intelligence. If we don't control it, as humans, for the purpose of the good, not the evil, because it could turn both sides. So we are creating another big enemy if we don't do a control of what we want from artificial intelligence. So we're living in a different moment now.
But what made me think of her in your context was that she inherited a country in 1979 that needed a lot of, as she likened it to, dusting behind the furniture and a spring clean of the country, which she did. And it sounds as though if you are to become the UN Secretary General, you're going to have some of that very same work to do, which is to perhaps move some of the furniture and sweep underneath it.
And break some furniture too.
And break some furniture too.
You have to break eggs to make an omelette. We need to do things for change, and we need to do it together with understanding, efficiency, the right way to what is important to implement. I mean, I'm not saying that we are going to change the world, but we have to work together with the different countries and listen to the different countries, what their needs are. You have in Africa, big problems in Africa, big problems in Latin America, big problems in Asia, everywhere in the world that you see now in the Middle East, everywhere there are big problems, and all the problems are of lack of jobs. People, they want to be dignified. They want to have, what do you ask a person? They say, what's happiness for you? I ask a lot of people. I love to talk with people. I love to talk with the driver. I love to talk with everyone to see their stories. Everyone has a great story to tell. And you know what everybody says happiness is? Is to be accepted in society as a human being with a dignified job. That could be having for him dream to have his children be better than him or her. So if you have that kind of dialogue with people, the UN is made for that. They can be open. UN should be open for the people to come and let's talk with them. I would love to invite everyone, the different groups, the different sectors, to come with the people, not just the leaders, but the people, to have a dialogue with everyone and say what their needs are. There are different needs, but Africa is one of the richest areas, like Latin America, the richest minerals, the richest everything. You know, in the Amazon alone, it's the water for the world, it's the lungs to the world, the lungs to the world. So I've done with Galapagos, we did the most important expansion of the marine reserve with a debt swap for environment, the largest in the history, $1.6 billion debt swap. What is this? It's making the debt less by putting the money for helping the people. So conservation of the land, but for the people to live there and to be able to have a job and to do something. So you can make it. There are a lot of solutions now. And as I said, with technology, with AI, there are so many solutions that you can find and preventing problems that you can do. So it is the moment. Now is the moment. And if we don't do it now, it will be too late.
You've been brokering peace, it sounds like, your whole life, including that example you gave in Lebanon when you were newly married. Again, you brokered peace in Ecuador and between Ecuador and Peru in 1998. Your peace brokering skills would obviously be in great demand were you to become the UN Secretary General. There are flashpoints all around the world. And since we've talked about Lebanon already, let's zero in on Lebanon a little bit more. I mean, 2026 could be a really important year for the country. President Aoun has a very tough job. Right. Disarming Hezbollah is something he's been tasked with doing. How do you rate his progress, and do you feel like Washington thinks he's done enough?
Yes, I think, and I thank President Aoun really very much, first for nominating me, but also for his vision. Don't forget that he was the general, for the head of the army, and he understands the problems very well. And he has created a great cabinet, also the cabinet. I also admire very much Prime Minister Nawaf Salam. So both of them have done a good group of people from different things that they are working together. And they have this kind of a mission. I think it's working. I believe that it needs more from the Lebanese in general, because you put two Lebanese and they don't agree. So you have to put them together. You have to bring them together and say, what do you prefer? It's Lebanon before religion. It's Lebanon before your personal interest. It's Lebanon that its mission, it's like the Pope Paul, what he said, Lebnan al-Risala. It means the Lebanon of the mission. It's not just a country. It's a mission. It's an example to the world of 19 different religions living together in a small place. When I arrived to Lebanon in the 60s, late 60s, it was, I wouldn't have changed Lebanon for anything. It was paradise. It was, you can go at night at 2 in the morning, drive everywhere in the mountains. And I love driving. And I used to go in my car and go everywhere. And I was a teenager. And you feel safe and everybody loves you. The mountains, they were living together, all religions. It was an example to the world. Tourism was, everybody wants to go to Lebanon. You never ask anyone. Until now, they all want to go to Lebanon. So tourism, the banking sector, everything, you name it. Well, the civil war happens. And when you start something and you don't put the past at rest, nothing changes. You have to turn the page, put the past at rest, because when something stays there and the parents teach their children and their children to hate, the hatred becomes more hate and there will never be again. It's difficult. But now I assure you, the new generation of Lebanon, they all want peace. I'm talking about my children, and I'm talking about the children that I speak with the youth. I used to take advice from my children. Now I take advice from my grandchildren, because they know even more. They are born with a chip inside. And you speak with the young generation, Lebanese generation, in Lebanon and outside Lebanon. We have the success of the Lebanese outside Lebanon is immense. Why not in Lebanon? So when you talk with the young generation, they all want peace, and they all want to have Lebanon free and take the decision as Lebanese, supported, of course, by that, but not dependent just on that. And that's what also President Trump, you're saying if they are agreeing, he wants to make every country should be doing the same. Make America great again? I said the Americas, which I know they are doing it, thank God, all the Americas with Venezuela and what's happening in the rest. But also, every country should be thinking of making strong the country, depending on themselves, not depending on the others. Lebanon could be blooming again. They will, and I'm sure it will. I'm sure it will.
So you sound optimistic for the future.
Very optimistic for Lebanon. If you don't make it now, you cannot make it. But now it's the time to make it, yes.
Right. The momentum is there.
The momentum is there.
And you mentioned Venezuela. I know Ecuador is not immediately next door. There's Colombia in the middle, but it's not far away. An unprecedented situation there. But are you optimistic that if that the Caracas and Washington can mend their fences? And do you think the consequences of that will be a positive result for the entire continent?
Absolutely. It's amazing what they are doing. That it should have been done before. That's what I'm saying. We have a great president in the United States also, with a great cabinet. Marco Rubio is an amazing, he's Cuban background. And they did an amazing thing because Venezuela, it was contaminating all the Ecuador. We are invaded with, you name it, cartels, mafias, terrorism, everything from all over the world. Our president now is doing a great job helping. President Obama is helping, trying to, I mean, it's not an easy job for him to do. He has a lot of inheritance of what happened and what's going on. And I used to put Ecuador as an island of peace, to example to the world. When I came to Lebanon, when the war started in Lebanon, I used to put Ecuador as an example of the island of peace, that you cannot have something like that. And why Lebanon, if it was like that, why changing? And now Ecuador is worse. So yes, by taking the thing of Venezuela, what's going on, you can create, again, the momentum of all the other countries. And we're seeing the change from the extreme left to the center, center-right, on all the countries there. So yeah, things are moving forward.
So we've talked a bit about your motherland, Lebanon. We've talked about Venezuela. Iran, another country on the precipice of major change, potentially. Where do you see things heading?
Again, I tell you, mothers, I'm seeing all these women. I was watching that kind of revolution of people going out, and you see more women than men. Did you notice that? Amazing young women going out and asking for freedom. Freedom is not just a word, Tom. Freedom is, look, it makes me feel, because freedom is a state of mind that motivates you to dream. And if I read something when I was entering here, hope. It's written outside here.
It says, we see hope everywhere.
Yes. If we don't have hope, we are dead. If you don't wake up in the morning and you are happy and feeling hopeful of making a better day and giving up, and Anna, if I do a day, make a child smile, and make hope is what's missing. I mean, and that's what Iran wants. They want freedom and hope. It was an amazing country before too. It's coming back.
And Gaza, another country which is a very long-standing and tragic situation there. Progress, but it's been slow progress. And the United Nations agencies in Gaza face a major challenge, which is somehow regaining the trust of Israel. Do you think that can be done?
I think so. I mean, we are not saying that everything can be done overnight, but I think, as I said, with Russia and Ukraine, it shouldn't have started. The same thing I will say about this, but October 7 happened, and it was terrible. And this is the reaction. We have to deal with what's going on. I believe that they should sit and talk again. The leaders. Where are the leaders of Gaza? Who took over? Hamas. Why Hamas took over? Because there was no leadership. So when you don't have leadership in a place, those that take over, they are doing it for themselves, not for the people. I'm sure that the Palestinians in Gaza, they don't want that. They want peace. See all the women when they're crying, the children. I can't look at this that's happening. And it could be avoided. Well, it's done now. We have to find a solution for it. And the solution is happening. It's taking some time, but it's happening. And it's happening quicker than Russia and Ukraine.
Do you think on your watch, were you to be the next UN Secretary General, there could be this very long, dreamt of scenario of a two-state solution?
Yes, that's my dream always. And I'm sure that Israel and Palestine, they want the two-state solution, I'm telling you. It's the extremes that they don't want. But the majority of the people, I have great friends, the Jewish community, and great friends on the other side. I mean, I see that both, they want the two-state solution. Because as I told you from the beginning, Israel wants security. Palestine wants the land. You can arrange for both. I mean, you can arrange for everyone, but you have to have security, and they have to feel safe. That's why trust building is so important. If you don't have trust, Ecuador, Peru, they were enemies. I was raised in Ecuador in the school to hate the Peruvians because they took half of our land. Ecuador was 550,000 square kilometers. Now it's 252,000 square kilometers because they took half. The Peruvians were not educated that way, but we were. So you see, we have to sit. When we did the negotiations, the Peruvians and the Ecuadorians, Roger Fisher made us exchange places. We became Peruvians, they became Ecuadorians. You have to put yourself in the other. Everyone wants peace, but you have to arrange what the priorities of both, and they can. There is land for everyone. There is land for everyone. You can just have fun to find trust among themselves that they will not come and invade. If I don't do protection, they will come and invade. The other side says the same thing. It's the same language. Change the language, change the outcome by changing what you present. They were trying to make peace a long time ago. During the Camp David, they tried. I think this time with President Trump, it's possible. President Clinton, I know, wanted very much to make peace. We used to talk more about peace in the Middle East than peace in Ecuador, Peru, when I was ambassador the first time. And I know that President Trump is doing it. He's doing it with action. The Abraham Accords is going very well. You have to agree that Israel is a fact, and Palestine has to be a fact too. So you can have the two-state solution.
And just lastly, I'm told by my producer that President Bush gave you a special mission after 9/11. It appears he really trusted you. We're talking about George W. Bush here.
Yes.
Could you just tell us what that mission was and what it was all about?
You know, you're returning me to the past, and you're going to make me emotional. But you know, I told you that I'm very much for peace. And when I was ambassador in Washington, September 11 happened. September 11, 2001, I was ambassador there. My daughter was born September 11. And she was born in Lebanon during the war, and she never accepted to make a celebration for her birthday because she thought that so. She accepted to have one in Washington at that time, and I did, and I invited everyone from everywhere, everyone is coming. And September 11 happened, and they were coming, and everything was stopped. I had the house full of people. And so when it happened, they called me from the White House and from the State Department to organize a dinner at my place, at the residence, with all the Arab ambassadors. And at that time, Colin Powell was the Secretary of State. There were many other people, senators, Senator Dodd, Senator, I don't remember exactly, but there were like 5 from the high level, from the White House, from the State Department, and from the Senate. Bob Graham, who is married to the Lebanese, he passed away recently, but he's married to the Lebanese. Beit Houri also, and they were all there, and all the Arab ambassadors from Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Jordan, Egypt, Qatar, Arab Emirates, Lebanon, of course, Iraq, all the Arab countries. And the question was, in the dinner, can you tell us why they hate us? What is happening? What is the reason? It was an amazing conversation. From that meeting, Bob Graham came to Lebanon, and he took Islam classes at the American University. He said, I want to know more about Islam, to understand what happened. And so it was in the residence of Ecuador where we made peace between Ecuador and Peru that Bush, at that time I was ambassador with Clinton first and then with Bush W. And they asked me to do that. And it was really a very good outcome because every ambassador was telling this high-level delegation that was sent why our cultures are different, how we have to understand how to treat every Arab country in a different way. I mean, it's not the same culture, it's a different one. And so it was, I cannot say details of what happened, but it was very helpful.
Okay, well, we're going to have to leave it there because we're out of time, but we really appreciate you taking the time to share that and all your other anecdotes with us. Thank you very much indeed, Ambassador Ivonne Baki, Ecuadorian diplomat and politician, seen as a strong contender as UN Secretary General. Thank you very much indeed for your time, madam.
Thank you, Tom. It's a pleasure to be here at Arabiya.